How are you, George?
I'm good, yourself?
Yeah, very good. I would like to ask you a few questions about what we're doing here today.
Okay, so we've been running this academy for a good 22 years, 23 years. Bringing people like Kevin over to the country with 433 football management is something that's been on our radar for a long time. We've brought other people here in this country before to actually identify children that play in this country that never get an opportunity to be seen overseas. One reason is it's expensive for parents to actually ship their kids out there to be identified by people like Kevin. So we took the initiative to bring someone like Kevin out here to actually identify our young and hopefully find the next Harry Kill.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's nice. We often speak about that, and our ambition is to obviously develop players. And like you said, you've been doing this for practically your whole life. Yeah. So for you, what do you think is the main element that we lack in this country, and what you focus on developing in players and moving them abroad?
I'd say one thing definite, one A-League with 12 prospective teams, 240 players in the professional league is not enough to see the 1 million plus footballers that are playing the game here in this country. So the maths alone tells you that it's a no-brainer, it's a no-go. So we've got to try and find other avenues and other ways for these kids to actually go and have half a chance of being looked at and maybe following a career in the game. Because it certainly won't happen here for most of these kids. It won't happen here.
Yeah, unfortunately enough, and that's right, with the closure of the AIS and a few other larger institutions that help players, it's down to you at the end of the day, yourself and other academies that specify in developing players. So,
I think when NSW was around, that was a great thing for Sydney especially, and there was other similar programs running all over the country. That closed down. I think it was more financial reason, and I think that there needs to be more of that in actual fact. And with the AIS closing down, even on top of that, creating footballers like the golden era won't be happening again. So we've got to find ways to make it happen.
That's right. So what are we doing here today and for the other 2 days that we have for this operation?
So we're giving Kevin Scott from 433 Football Management a chance to identify our players in technique, skill level, agility, coordination, and as the week progresses in smaller sided games, bigger sided games, and then full pitch games, so that you can actually see the player's persona, character build-up, communication skills too, that's another thing. There's a lot that he can actually see in 3 days.
Definitely, and that's one thing I've noticed since working under you is your emphasis on character building and not just being a developing human on the pitch, but off the pitch. Yeah. You know, in terms of respect and discipline, these are things that you push and promote a lot, and myself as well.
Look, unfortunately, a lot of these footballers come here and think that what the goods that they actually produce on the park, and as far as football is concerned, is good enough. It's not. Character build-up is a big thing. Having a character in the first place is a big thing. And having the tenacity, having the goal to go out there and do what you're going to do. Like, you know, most of these cases, parents are calling us and texting us whether their children can come to training or not. Where we expect them to have that. So we set the mould in place here, and hopefully they carry on with it.
That's right, and that's something we do reiterate a lot. We can only give them so much. At the end of the day, it's up to them to push and drive themselves. 100%. Yeah. So what message would you have to players that aren't in AYFI and are aspiring to be professional footballers and develop?
I would say, if you're not getting the engaged, proper footballing development hours, get them from somewhere. It doesn't have to be us, it could be anyone. Children or players overseas from the age of about 13 or 14, and you'll hear this from Kevin as well, are training anything up to 13, 14, 15 hours a week. Whether it's with the club and or with a club plus the extras that they're getting those hours. Now, if you're not willing to forego those hours and put in, not going to happen, because there's millions overseas or everywhere else putting in those hours, so they'll benefit from it. Yeah.
And that's something I can relate to as a footballer as well from playing. So now tell me, what would you say to a player who's beating himself up because he doesn't have a shot here in this country or not being given the opportunity? Is there anything you can tell them to obviously motivate and keep them focused on their track?
I would say keep working hard if you have ambitions of becoming a pro footballer. We all know that pro footballers don't happen overnight. We're not in the league of a sport where you can, and I'm not going to sort of say that rugby league is bad, but I mean, if you're 6 foot tall and you built like a brick shit house and you put a long ball between you here and you run, it doesn't take much skill to do that. But you know, in our game, there's so many different ways you can pass and receive a ball. There's so many different ways you can think on the pitch. There's so many different ways, even character. I'll come back to character as well. You know, if your parents are making all decisions for you off the pitch, they're usually going to make your decisions on the pitch, which is really going to be not good enough. So we'll just get out of it now.